Hello everyone and welcome to Willow Cove Crafts, my channel here on YouTube where I talk about knitting and sewing and my other crafty endeavors. My name is Emily and today's video is a sewing vlog where I will be making the toaster sweater by Sew House 7 Patterns. I am planning on making a couple minor modifications to the pattern, so I have already assembled and traced and cut out my pattern pieces. I didn't film that because it's massively boring, at least to me. But I did that and I made the decision to lengthen the body of the sweater by 1 inch. How I decide if I'm gonna lengthen something is I will typically compare the pattern measurements to an article of clothing that I already have in my closet that I like the fit of. So I just took another sweatshirt that I own and measured how long that sweatshirt was, and it was a little bit longer than the measurements that were provided in the toaster sweater pattern. So I decided to lengthen it because I like the fit of that store-bought sweatshirt, and so I am just making this one to match. So I think that's a really good strategy if you're not quite sure whether to lengthen or modify something or even what size to make, is to just compare it to a piece of clothing that you already really like to wear and that you like the fit of. The other modification I'm planning to make is I'm going to be adding a neck reinforcement. This is not something that is in the pattern, but it is something that I like to do when sewing with knit fabrics. It's just a bit of a strip of fabric that you sew at the back of the neck that helps to keep things from stretching out over time. And I want the clothes I make to last as long as possible, and so it's an extra step that I like to take to ensure that everything is going to, be the best quality and have the longest shelf life in my closet. All right, and now the fun part, let's talk about fabric. I will be using this Waffle fabric that I purchased from a store on Etsy called Stay Stitches Fabric. I will link them below. But it's this beautiful burgundy waffle fabric. It is a polyester rayon spandex blend. And I think this is gonna be really nice because, who doesn't like waffle fabric? It's the coziest thing ever. But also, so this is the outside of the fabric, and then the inside, I don't know if you're gonna be able to tell, but it is, you can't really see, it is quite fuzzy on the inside. So I think that's gonna be really cozy. I think that's everything as far as an introduction is concerned. So let's go ahead and cut out some fabric. right, the sun has come out. It was such a dreary, foggy, dark morning, and now the sun has come out just in time to start sewing. So the first steps, I've got 2 sleeves, a front and a back. Like I mentioned, it is a raglan shirt, very similar to the one I'm wearing coincidentally. So the first step is to take the 2 sleeves, the front and back, and do the raglan seams to join them all together. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that. I want to make a quick note that when I sew my seams with knit fabric, I like to sew them first on my regular sewing machine with a straight stitch. I feel like that is a bit contentious because a straight stitch does not have a ton of stretch to it, but I do that more so to kind of baste my fabric pieces together, and then once I do the straight stitch, I run it through the serger. That's just a tip I have come across in watching a lot of YouTube videos. I've seen some other garment sewists do that, and I think the logic is that yes, the straight stitch doesn't have a lot of stretch, but it's just there to hold your fabric together while you serge it. And if that stitching pops at some point in the future, you at least still have your serging in place to keep your seam together. So it's worked really well for me thus far. It really helps to stabilize the fabric before I send it through the serger. So I'm gonna keep doing it until I learn otherwise. Up is the neckband piece, the big turtleneck. So this is this piece. So first thing we're gonna do is sew the short edge together to turn this into a tube. All right, now that that is sewn together, we're gonna double this over. I can't do this with one hand, but we'll double the piece over, and then we will attach it to the body of the sweater. needs to hear this, but my pro tip for you today, I'm not a pro, but my tip for you today is to use as many pins or clips as you need to, as makes you feel comfortable, especially for the tricky parts of a garment. So for example, I find necklines really tricky. I think a lot of people do. They can look wobbly, kind of shift out of place really easily. So I use a ton of clips to make sure that everything is lined up perfectly. I really try to take my time to make sure my seams are lined up, you know, my seam allowances are pressed to the correct way, just things like that. So I probably have like 20 to 30 clips on my neckline, and that's where I feel comfortable, and so that's what I'm gonna do, and you should do the same. Even with all that pinning, you can't really see, I missed my seam right here. So that is why I sew it on the sewing machine first, because now I can easily just like unpick that and redo it, versus if I had sewn it on the serger, I would have been kind of screwed. So anyways, use pins. Even then, things don't go right, but I can fix that pretty easily. I did such a good job matching thread to fabric that I can't tell where my thread is. And I really don't wanna rip my fabric. I've been burned before where I've tried to seam rip something and I accidentally ripped my fabric. So I'm trying really hard not to do that. Just because of the like fuzzy nature, I don't know if you can see me, the fuzzy nature of this fabric, and then the thread matches so well. Seam ripping's a little scary because I can't quite see what I'm doing. So hopefully it goes all right. I need to let my phone charge for a bit because it's about to die, but I am gonna put in that neck reinforcement piece that I talked about. I'm not gonna film it because I have to charge my phone. I do think maybe at some point in the future I'll do a tutorial on it because it's a nice little professional detail, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I will show you all what it looks like when it's finished. All right, here it is. So you'll notice I put a strip here. So it works nicely in that it covers the back serge of your neckline, and it puts your little tag in if you have them. And I think it's just a really nice detail. You do end up having a line of stitching that shows through on the front side. You're probably not gonna be able to see that, but that is how a lot of your store-bought shirts are. So that doesn't really bother me because I've never really noticed it on my store-bought shirts until I started sewing garments. And the fact that I went my whole life without really noticing that line of stitching means that I'm not gonna notice it, no one else is gonna notice it, and it just looks really nice from the inside. Okay, it's time to sew up the sides. So right now the shirt is open on the sides and under the arms, but we're gonna sew that right up. The sun is starting to set, or not really set. It's 3 o'clock. My apartment gets really intense afternoon sunlight, so I think the lighting's gonna be a little weird, so. Continuing to lose daylight here, but next up I'm going to do the cuffs. So they look a bit wonky at the moment, but we're going to sew them together this way along this edge, and then very similarly to how the neckband happened, we'll double them over or turn them inside out, double them over, and then sew them on to the end of the sleeves. We almost have a full shirt. Look at those cute cuffs. The only thing that is left to do is to put the bottom hem on, and then I'll be done. With my toaster sweater, and today is the first day I am wearing it. It is so cozy and perfect for these cold winter days we are having, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. The fit is perfect and the length is perfect, and I think I'm gonna get a lot of use out of this one. So here it is, all finished up. I am hoping to make a few more versions of this sweatshirt, so stay tuned for some upcoming videos. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave it a comment, give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I will see you next time. Thanks everyone, bye.